The first time I realized my family didn't love me, I was 8 years old, standing in our living room while my mother threw away my sheet music. "Zara, this noise has to stop," she said, crumpling up my handwritten composition, a little melody I'd been working on for weeks. "You're disturbing Sydney's nap. My name is Zara Holland," and that moment taught me that in my house, my dreams were just noise. The only person who ever believed in my music was Grandma Rose. She'd sit beside me on the piano bench, her weathered hands guiding mine across the keys of the old upright piano she'd given me for my 7th birthday. "Music is the language of the soul, sweetheart," she'd whisper. "Don't let anyone silence your voice." After she died when I was 10, that piano became my sanctuary. Every afternoon, I'd race home from school and lose myself in those keys. I'd play Chopin until my fingers ached, then switch to my own compositions, melodies that captured everything I couldn't say out loud. "God, Zara, can you please stop that racket?" Sydney would whine from the couch, not looking up from her phone. "I'm trying to take selfies for Instagram." My mother would nod in agreement. "Honestly, all this practicing is getting ridiculous. You're 16 now. Maybe it's time to focus on something more practical." "Like what?" I asked once, my hands still resting on the keys. "Well, Sydney's thinking about becoming an influencer. That's a real career path these days." I looked at my sister, who was currently trying to perfect her pout in her phone camera. "Right, very practical. Don't be sarcastic, Zara. At least she's building a following." "What are you building? Calluses?" The conversations were always the same. My mother, Laurel, would find new ways to dismiss my passion while elevating whatever Sydney was doing that week. When I won 2nd place in the state youth piano competition, she forgot to come to the ceremony. When Sydney got 50 new followers on TikTok, we went out for celebratory dinner. "You know what your problem is," Sydney said one evening, lounging in the doorway while I practiced. "You think you're special because you can play some old songs, but like, anyone can learn piano. It's not that deep." "Then why don't you try?" I asked, not stopping my scales. "Because I have better things to do with my time. I'm building a brand." A brand. At 17, my sister thought posting makeup tutorials and outfit changes constituted building a brand. Meanwhile, I was composing pieces that made my music teacher cry, actually cry, during lessons. "This one," Mrs. Peterson had said after I played her my latest composition, "this one comes from somewhere real. You have a gift, Zara. Don't waste it." But at home, my gift was treated like a hobby at best, a nuisance at worst. When I practiced late, my mother would bang on the living room wall. When I left sheet music on the kitchen counter, it would disappear into the trash. When I asked if we could get the piano tuned, I was told it was an unnecessary expense. The worst part wasn't the dismissal. It was the way they looked at me. Like I was delusional for thinking music could be anything more than a pastime. Like I was embarrassing myself by caring so much about something so impractical. "You know what you should do?" Laurel said one day, watching me practice. "You should learn some pop songs, maybe some Taylor Swift. People actually want to hear that stuff." "I like classical music." "Well, nobody else does. If you're going to insist on playing, at least play something people can enjoy." I started keeping my compositions hidden after that, writing them in a notebook I kept under my mattress. Late at night, I'd sneak downstairs and play them softly, my foot barely touching the sustain pedal, trying not to wake anyone. The piano became my diary. Every fight with my mother, every dismissive comment from Sydney, every moment I felt invisible in my own home, it all went into my music. Melancholy pieces in minor keys that captured the loneliness of being misunderstood. Angry, staccato compositions that released the frustration of being constantly diminished. When I got accepted to college on a partial music scholarship, you'd think they'd be proud. Instead, my mother sighed and said, "Well, I hope you have a backup plan." I packed my bags that August with a mixture of relief and heartbreak. Finally, I'd be somewhere my music mattered. Finally, I'd be around people who understood that what I did wasn't just noise, it was everything. I came home for a long weekend in October, excited to show them a piece I'd been working on in my composition class. I walked through the front door, dropped my bag, and headed straight for the living room. That's when I saw it. The empty space where my piano used to be. Just carpet indentations and dust outlines on the wall. My sanctuary was gone. I stood in the living room doorway, staring at the empty space, like it might somehow make the piano reappear. "Mom?" I called out, my voice cracking. "Oh, you're home!" Laurel appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel like nothing had happened. "How was the drive?" "Where's my piano?" She paused, that fake smile flickering. "Oh, that old thing? We sold it." "You what?" "Zara, don't be dramatic. It was taking up so much space, and honestly, it was becoming an eyesore. The living room looks so much better now, don't you think?" I looked around the room. There was a new white leather sectional where my piano used to be. Some generic abstract art on the walls. It looked like a furniture showroom. "You sold my piano." "It wasn't really yours, sweetie. It was Grandma's, and she's been gone for years. We needed the money for something important. More important than Sydney's surgery." My sister's voice came from upstairs, followed by the sound of her heels clicking down the steps. She appeared with an iced coffee in one hand, phone in the other, sporting a dramatically different nose than the one she'd had when I left for college. "Surgery?" I stared at her new profile. "You got a nose job?" "Rhinoplasty," she corrected, posing slightly. "Dr. Martinez is like, the best in the state, look how perfect it is." She turned her head side to side. "My follower count has already gone up by 3,000 since I posted the before and after." "You sold my piano to pay for Sydney's nose job." "It wasn't your piano," Laurel said firmly. "And yes, we used the money for Sydney's procedure. This is an investment in her future. Do you know how much influencers can make these days?" "Literally 6 figures," Sydney added, not looking up from her phone. "I'm already getting brand deal inquiries." I felt like I was underwater, like their voices were coming from very far away. "How much did you sell it for?" $1,200, Laurel said, which was honestly more than I expected for such an old instrument. $1,200. I repeated it slowly. "You sold Grandma's piano, my piano, for $1,200. Zara, you're in college now. You're not even here to play it. It was just collecting dust." "I'm studying music." "As a hobby," she said dismissively. "You're majoring in business, remember? I made sure of that when we filled out your course selections." I changed my major to music composition. The room went silent. Laurel's face went through several expressions before landing on disappointment. "Oh, Zara, we talked about this. Music isn't a career. It's a nice skill to have, but you need something stable." "Like posting selfies on Instagram?" "Hey," Sydney looked up from her phone for the first time. "What I do takes actual work. Do you know how hard it is to build a following? To create content every single day? To maintain an aesthetic? You take pictures of yourself. I create a brand. I engage with my audience. I collaborate with other creators." She rolled her eyes. "Like, you're not going to be Beethoven, so chill." "I never said I wanted to be Beethoven." "Good, because you're not talented enough," Sydney said, going back to her phone. "I mean, you play okay, but it's not like you're special or anything." I looked at my mother, waiting for her to say something, anything, to defend me. Instead, she nodded. "Sydney has a point, honey. You're good at piano, but there are thousands of good piano players. Sydney is building something unique." "Something unique," I repeated. "Her nose job reveal got 50,000 views in one day," Laurel said proudly. "That's real engagement. That's measurable success. I walked over to where my piano bench used to be. There was still an indentation in the carpet where its legs had sat for 10 years. Where did you sell it? Some antique dealer in New Hampshire. He said he restores old instruments. Laurel shrugged. I'm sure whoever buys it will appreciate it more than we did. More than we did. Oh, don't be so melodramatic. It's just a piano, Zara. There are thousands of them. It was Grandma's. And now it's helping your sister launch her career. Grandma would have wanted that. Sydney looked up from her phone again. Actually, she probably would have wanted me to have the money. I was always her favorite. That's not true. Please. She always said I was going to be famous someday. She never said that about your piano playing. I felt something break inside me. Not snap, break. Like a string under too much tension. I need some air. Dinner's at 6, Laurel called after me. I made your favorite, chicken parmesan. I walked outside and sat in my car in the driveway. My hands were shaking. I tried to call my roommate, but my phone was dead. I tried to start the car, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling long enough to get the key in the ignition. So I just sat there, in the silence, and cried. Not pretty tears, ugly, angry sobs that made my chest hurt. They'd sold the one thing that mattered to me, the one connection I had left to the person who believed in my dreams, and they'd done it for Sydney's nose. I pulled out my notebook and wrote 4 words. Someday, they'll regret this. I moved into a studio apartment 3 blocks from campus that smelled like old carpet and had a radiator that clanged all night. The rent was $800 a month, which meant I had to pick up shifts at Romano's, a family Italian place where the owner yelled at everyone in broken English and the customers treated servers like furniture. Table 6 wants extra parmesan, Maria, the other server, said as I tied my apron, and they're already complaining about the wait time. How long have they been here? 7 minutes. I grabbed the cheese grater and headed over. This was my life now. Smiling at people who snapped their fingers at me while I saved every tip to afford the digital keyboard I'd found on Craigslist. It took me 3 months to save up the $400. The seller was a college kid who was moving back home after dropping out. It's got weighted keys, he said, demonstrating. Feels almost like a real piano. Almost. But it was what I could afford. I set it up in the corner of my studio, plugged in headphones, and played for the first time since coming home to that empty living room. My fingers felt rusty, uncertain. I started with scales, then moved to a Chopin nocturne, then finally to one of my own pieces. The sound was different through headphones, more isolated, more personal. Like the music was happening inside my head instead of filling a room. I started composing again. Late at night after my shifts, I'd sit at that little keyboard and pour everything into the keys. The betrayal, the anger, the loneliness of being in a family that didn't understand me. I called the piece Ashes and Arpeggios. Dude, you look exhausted, Kenny said one afternoon. We were sitting in the campus coffee shop, and I was barely keeping my eyes open after pulling a double shift. Kenny and I had been friends since freshman year music theory. He was one of those guys who could play anything by ear and had somehow turned his dorm room into a recording studio using equipment he'd bought with his student loan money. I'm fine, just working a lot. Still at that Italian place? Romano's. Yeah. Man, you should quit that job. You're too talented to be serving breadsticks to drunk college kids. I need the money. For what? You're on scholarship. I hesitated. Kenny knew about my family situation, but I'd never told him about the piano. It felt too raw, too humiliating. I bought a keyboard. I'm composing again. His face lit up. No way! Let me hear something. It's not ready. Come on, just a snippet. I've got my portable recorder in my bag. An hour later, we were in my studio apartment. Kenny set up his equipment while I sat at the keyboard, suddenly nervous. "Just play whatever you've been working on," he said. "Don't overthink it." I started Ashes and Arpeggios. The opening was soft, melancholy, like mourning something lost. Then it built into something more complex, more angry. The melody twisted and turned, never quite resolving, never quite finding peace. When I finished, Kenny was staring at me. "Holy shit, Zara. It's not finished." That was incredible, like, actually incredible. He was already pulling up his laptop. "We need to record this properly." "Kenny, I don't know." "Trust me, this is magic." We spent the next 3 hours recording. Kenny had me play it 5 different ways, adjusting the sound, adding subtle layers. When we were done, he played it back through his speakers. I barely recognized it. The piece sounded bigger, more professional, more real. "What are you going to do with it?" I asked. "Post it. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere." "I don't want my name on it." "Why not?" I couldn't explain that I was afraid my family would see it, that they'd find some way to diminish this too. Just, "Not yet. Can you post it under a pseudonym?" "Sure. What do you want to be called?" I thought about it. "Silent Ivory." Perfect. Kenny uploaded a 30-second clip that night. He filmed it from behind, so you could only see my hands on the keys and the back of my head. The caption read, "When Classical Meets Emotion. Original composition by Silent Ivory." "It'll probably get like 50 views," he said, hitting post. "But you never know." I went to bed thinking about those 50 hypothetical views. I woke up to Kenny pounding on my door. "Zara, open up!" I stumbled to the door in my pajamas. Kenny was standing there with his phone, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "What time is it?" 8 a.m. "Look at this." He shoved his phone in my face. The video had 127,000 views. The comments were endless. "This is hauntingly beautiful. Who is Silent Ivory? I need more." This gave me chills, actual chills. The way this builds. I'm crying. "Kenny, it's viral, like, actually, viral." His phone kept buzzing with notifications. "And look at this." He showed me a repost from a YouTuber with 3 million subscribers. "Classical music that will make you question everything. Who is this mystery composer?" My phone started ringing. Unknown number. "Don't answer it," Kenny said. "It's probably a reporter or something. This is insane." I stared at the numbers climbing on his screen. 150,000 views. 200,000. The comments kept coming. "What do we do now?" I asked. Kenny grinned. "Now we give them what they want. How many more pieces do you have?" I thought about my notebook, filled with compositions born from years of being dismissed and ignored. "I have enough." The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was getting ready for my shift at Romano's. "Is this Silent Ivory?" The voice was crisp, professional. "Who's asking?" "Dean Franklin. I'm a music agent in Los Angeles. I represent composers for film, television, and live performance. I'd like to discuss your work." I sat down on my bed, still in my Romano's uniform. "How did you get this number?" "Your producer friend Kenny gave it to me. With your permission," he said. "Look, I'll cut to the chase. What you're doing is special. I've been in this business for 15 years, and I haven't heard anything like Ashes and Arpeggios in a long time. It's just a demo. It's a masterpiece, and according to Kenny, you have more where that came from." I looked at my notebook, sitting open on my desk. Pages and pages of compositions, all born from pain. "Maybe. I want to fly you out to LA, meet in person, hear what else you've got. I think we can do something big with your music." "Like what?" "Live performance, full orchestra. I'm talking about the kind of debut that launches careers. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Dean's office in Beverly Hills, trying not to gawk at the gold records on his walls. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with kind eyes and an expensive suit. "So, tell me about Ashes and Arpeggios," he said, leaning back in his chair. "What inspired it?" "Personal stuff," I figured. That kind of emotion doesn't come from nowhere. He pulled out a tablet. "I've been following your posts. The response is incredible. 2 million views across platforms, and that's just the beginning. It's surreal. It's deserved. But I think you're holding back. Kenny played me some of your other pieces over the phone. There's a story here, isn't there? Something deeper." I shifted in my chair. "What do you mean?" "The pain in your music. It's specific, focused, like you're working through something particular, not just general sadness." He wasn't wrong. Every piece I'd written since coming home to that empty living room had been about betrayal, about being dismissed, about losing the one thing that mattered to me. Maybe. I want to propose something ambitious. A full symphony. 5 movements, full orchestra, premiered at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. But it needs to be cohesive. It needs to tell a story. "What kind of story?" "Your story. Whatever's driving this music." I thought about my family, about the piano, about years of being told my dreams didn't matter. "I don't know if I'm ready to share that. The music is already sharing it. You're just not putting words to it yet." Dean leaned forward. "Look, I've seen a lot of talented composers crash and burn because they were afraid to be vulnerable. The ones who make it, who really make it, are the ones who aren't afraid to bleed a little." That night, I called Kenny from my hotel room. "So, how did it go?" "He wants me to write a symphony." "Dude, that's incredible. What's the theme?" "Family. Betrayal. Loss." I paused. "He wants me to tell my story." "About the piano?" "About everything." Kenny was quiet for a moment. "Are you going to do it?" "I think so. I think I have to." I spent the next 3 months writing. I quit Romano's and lived off the advance Dean had negotiated. 5 movements, each one exploring a different aspect of my relationship with my family. The first movement was called Silence. It captured the feeling of being a child whose voice didn't matter, whose dreams were dismissed as noise. The second was Inheritance. The piano, Grandma Rose, the one person who believed in me. The third was Betrayal. The day I came home to find my sanctuary sold for cosmetic surgery money. The fourth was Exile. Moving away, starting over, building something from nothing. The fifth movement I couldn't finish. It was supposed to be about resolution, about moving forward. But every time I tried to write it, the music came out angry, unresolved. "It doesn't have to be pretty," Dean said during one of our phone calls. "It doesn't have to tie up in a neat bow. Sometimes the most honest ending is the one that doesn't end." "What do you mean?" "Maybe the story isn't over yet. Maybe the 5th movement is still being written." The symphony premiered on a Thursday night in March. I wore a black dress Dean had helped me pick out and stood in the wings, listening to the Los Angeles Philharmonic bring my pain to life. The audience was silent through all 5 movements. When it ended, on that unresolved hanging note, there was a moment of complete quiet before the applause erupted. "That was extraordinary," the conductor said afterward, shaking my hand. "Truly extraordinary." Dean found me backstage, grinning. "The Times critic is calling it a devastating debut. Entertainment Weekly wants an interview. And..." He paused, looking at his phone. "You're trending on Twitter." I pulled out my own phone and saw the notifications flooding in. But one text stood out from the rest. "Saw your name trending. We're so proud. Let us know how we can help. Mom." I showed Dean the message. He raised an eyebrow. "Interesting timing." "Yeah. They ignored me for 27 years. But now that I'm successful..." What are you going to do? I looked at the text again, then deleted it without responding. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The Emerging Composer Award Gala was everything I'd dreamed of as a kid, practicing on Grandma's piano. Red carpet, photographers, musicians I'd idolized for years. Dean had gotten me a stylist who put me in a midnight blue gown that made me feel like someone important. You ready for this? He asked as our car pulled up to the venue. As ready as I'll ever be. The Dorothy Chandler Pavilion was lit up like a jewel. Photographers lined the entrance, calling out to various celebrities and musicians. When I stepped out of the car, a few cameras turned my way. Silent Ivory, over here. Zara, how does it feel to be nominated? I smiled and waved, still getting used to people knowing my real name. The anonymity had ended when Rolling Score magazine did a cover story on me last month. Inside, the venue buzzed with conversation and clinking glasses. I recognized faces from album covers and concert posters. This was my world now somehow. Zara! A woman with a press badge approached me. Marlo Jenkins from Rolling Score. Could I get a quick word? Of course. She pulled out her phone to record. Your symphony, Inheritance, has been called one of the most emotionally powerful debuts in years. What inspired such raw, personal music? Life, I said simply. Sometimes the most honest art comes from the most difficult experiences. Speaking of inspiration, I understand your family has been incredibly supportive of your musical journey. Your mother and sister are here tonight, actually. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? They're over by the champagne station. Lovely women. They were just telling me about how they always knew you'd be special, how your first piano was a family heirloom that started it all. I followed her gaze and saw them. Laurel in a designer dress I knew she couldn't afford. Sydney in something tight and sparkly, both of them holding champagne flutes and laughing with a small crowd of people. Excuse me, I said to Marlo, and walked toward the bathroom. My heart pounding. I locked myself in a stall and tried to breathe. They were here. At my moment of triumph, they were here, rewriting history for anyone who would listen. My phone buzzed. A text from Dean. Your family's here. Want me to handle it? I texted back. No, I've got this. When I came out of the bathroom, I nearly walked straight into Sydney. Oh my God, Zara! She threw her arms around me like we were best friends. You look amazing. This whole thing is so incredible. What are you doing here? Supporting you, obviously. We're so proud. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. I've already gotten like 3 brand deal inquiries just from being here. Apparently, being related to a famous composer is really good for my image. How did you even get in? Mom bought tickets. They were like super expensive, but she said it was worth it to support family. I looked past her to where Laurel was holding court with a small group, gesturing dramatically. She told that journalist that you always supported my music. Sydney shrugged. Well, we did. I mean, we let you practice and stuff. You sold my piano. That was different. That was before you were successful. She checked her reflection in her phone camera. Besides, you don't need that old thing anymore. You can probably buy like 10 pianos now. The lights dimmed, signaling that the ceremony was about to start. Sydney hurried back to her seat, leaving me standing there, shaking with rage. I found my assigned seat in the 3rd row. Dean was already there, looking concerned. You okay? They're telling people they always supported me. I heard. Marlo Jenkins cornered me earlier asking about your supportive family environment. The ceremony began. I sat through awards for Best Film Score, Best Jazz Album, Best Classical Recording. When they announced my category, my palms were sweating. The Emerging Composer Award goes to Zara Holland for Inheritance. The applause was thunderous. I walked to the stage on unsteady legs, accepted the crystal trophy, and stepped up to the microphone. Thank you, I began, looking out at the audience. I could see my mother and sister in the crowd, beaming like proud relatives. This symphony was born from a very personal place. It's about loss, about betrayal, about finding your voice when the people closest to you try to silence it. I paused, my eyes finding Laurel's face in the crowd. Her smile faltered slightly. Music saved me when my family couldn't, when the people who should have supported my dreams instead sold them for cosmetic surgery money. A murmur went through the audience. Sydney's face went white. So this award isn't just for me, it's for every artist who's been told their dreams don't matter, who's been dismissed by the people who should love them most. Sometimes the greatest gift your family can give you is showing you exactly who not to become. I held up the trophy. Thank you. The applause was different this time, more intense, more personal. As I walked off stage, I could see Marlo Jenkins frantically taking notes, her eyes bright with the scent of a story. Dean met me backstage, grinning. Well, that's going to make headlines. Good, I said, still holding the trophy. Let it. My phone was already buzzing with notifications. The clip was going viral in real time. Composer calls out family on live TV. Zara Holland drops truth bomb at awards show. The most savage acceptance speech ever? I turned off my phone and smiled. The fifth movement of my symphony had finally found its ending. I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. 57 missed calls, hundreds of text messages, and notifications from every social media platform I'd ever signed up for. The first text was from Kenny. Dude, you broke the internet. The second was from Dean. Call me ASAP. We need to talk strategy. The third was from my mother. How could you humiliate us like this? Call me immediately. I ignored that one and opened Twitter. Zara Holland Truth was trending worldwide. The video of my acceptance speech had been viewed 12 million times overnight. The comments were brutal and beautiful at the same time. This woman just ended her entire family on live television. The way she said cosmetic surgery money with such disdain. Iconic. Imagine being so selfish you sell your daughter's piano for a nose job. Family isn't blood. Family is who supports your dreams. My phone rang. Dean. Zara, where are you? My hotel room, still in LA. Good. Don't go anywhere. Every major news outlet wants to interview you. TMZ is camped outside the hotel. This is huge. Is that good or bad? It's honest, and people are responding to honest. The New York Times wants to do a feature. Rolling Stone is calling it the most authentic moment in awards show history. Another call was coming in. My mother again. Dean, I have to go. Don't answer any calls from family. Not yet. Let this play out. I hung up and stared at Laurel's name on my screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Zara Elizabeth Holland, what the hell were you thinking? I was thinking I'd tell the truth for once. The truth? You made us sound like monsters. Do you know what people are saying about us online? Probably the same things they've been saying about me my whole life. This is different. Sydney is getting death threats. People are calling her a spoiled brat. Isn't she? She's your sister. She's the person who sold my piano and told me I wasn't talented enough to be Beethoven. That piano was not yours. It belonged to the family. I laughed. Actually laughed. Right. Just like my dreams belong to the family. Just like my success now belongs to the family. We raised you. We supported you. When? When did you support me? When you threw away my sheet music? When you told me to play Taylor Swift instead of classical? When you forgot to come to my competition? Silence on the other end. You want to know what's funny, Mom? I spent years trying to make you proud. Years thinking maybe if I just worked harder, practiced more, achieved more, you'd finally see me. But you only see me now because other people do. That's not... You bought tickets to my award show. Expensive tickets, Sydney said. You never spent money on my music before, but you'll spend it to be seen at my success. We wanted to celebrate with you. You wanted to be photographed with me. There's a difference. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Within minutes, Sydney was calling. Zara, you have to fix this. My Instagram comments are insane. People are calling me a narcissist. I'm losing followers. Good. Good. This is my livelihood. Do you know how hard I've worked to build my brand? By taking selfies. By creating content. By engaging with my audience. And now you've ruined it because you wanted to be dramatic at some stupid award show. Stupid award show. You know what I mean. Look, I get that you're mad about the piano thing, but that was like years ago. Can't you just post something saying you were emotional and didn't mean it? But I did mean it. Zara, please. I have a sponsored post going live tomorrow for a skincare brand. If this keeps trending, they might pull the deal. Maybe you should have thought about that before you spent my piano money on your face. Oh my God, you're being such a drama queen. It was just a piano. I hung up and blocked her too. My phone immediately rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Zara, this is Marlo Jenkins from Rolling Score. I was hoping we could do a follow-up interview. The response to your speech has been unprecedented. What kind of follow-up? People want to know more about your story. The piano, your family dynamics, how you built your career despite the lack of support. This could be a cover story. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to retreat, to let the moment pass. But another part, the part that had been silenced for 27 years, wanted to keep talking. When? Today, if possible, while the story is hot. Okay. Great. One more thing. We've been getting messages from people claiming to know your family. Your mother reached out to our office this morning wanting to set the record straight. Should we include her perspective? I smiled. Sure. Let her set the record straight. I'd love to hear what she has to say. Perfect. See you at 2. After I hung up, I opened Twitter again. The hashtag was still trending. Musicians, actors, and regular people were sharing their own stories of family betrayal and unsupportive relatives. My parents said art school was a waste of money. Now they want front row seats to my gallery opening. Family who never believed in you suddenly want to manage your career. The people who called your dreams unrealistic are the first ones asking for money when you make it. I screenshotted a few of the posts and shared them with the caption, "You're not alone." Within an hour, it had been retweeted 50,000 times. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown account. How silent ivories. I think I have something that once belonged to you. The message from Silent Ivories came with an address in Pasadena and a time, 3 p.m. today. This could be a stalker, Dean said when I showed him the message, or a reporter trying to get an exclusive. Or it could be legitimate. What makes you think that? I stared at the username. Silent Ivories. Piano keys are made of ivory. And I used Silent Ivory as my pseudonym when Kenny first posted my music. That's a pretty big coincidence. Maybe, but I have to know. Dean insisted on coming with me. We drove to a modest house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people actually knew their neighbors. An older black man answered the door before we could knock. Tall, maybe 60, with kind eyes and calloused hands. "You must be Zara," he said. "I'm Isaiah King." "You're the one who messaged me?" "I am. Please come in." His living room was filled with musical instruments in various states of repair. Violins hung from the walls, a cello sat in the corner, and there were piano parts scattered on every surface. "You restore instruments," I said. "For 40 years. It's more than a job, it's a calling." He gestured for us to sit. "I saw your speech last night. Powerful stuff." "Thank you." When you mentioned the piano being sold for cosmetic surgery, Something clicked. I bought an old upright about 3 years ago from a woman in New Hampshire. She seemed eager to get rid of it, said it was taking up space. My heart started pounding. What did it look like? Dark wood, probably from the 1940s. Had some beautiful inlay work on the music stand. But what really caught my attention were the initials carved into the bench. What initials? Is Sage very small, like someone had done it secretly? I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I carved those when I was 12. My mother was furious. Isaiah smiled. I figured they meant something. The piano had been loved, you could tell. Worn keys in all the right places, sheet music stains on the wood. Someone had spent a lot of time with that instrument. Where is it now? That's the thing. I restored it completely. New strings, tuned the hammers, refinished the wood. It's beautiful now, better than it's been in decades. But I sold it last month to a collector in San Francisco. My heart sank. Oh, but I kept something. He walked over to a workbench and picked up a small wooden box. The original keys, all 88 of them. I always save the keys when I do a full restoration. They tell the story of the instrument. He opened the box. Inside, nestled in red velvet, were piano keys worn smooth by decades of playing. Some were more yellowed than others, showing exactly where fingers had pressed them most often. These keys know your touch, Isaiah said softly. They felt your music. I reached out and touched middle C. It was warm, familiar, like shaking hands with an old friend. Why are you giving these to me? Because they belong to you. They always did. He closed the box and handed it to me. Your grandmother would have wanted you to have them. You didn't know my grandmother. No, but I know music, and I know love. That piano was loved by someone who understood its value. That someone was you. Dean was quiet during the drive back to the hotel. Finally, he spoke. What are you going to do with them? I held the box in my lap, feeling its weight. I have an idea. That evening, I called Marlo from Rolling Score. Marlo, it's Zara. I have something for you. A follow-up to the story. What kind of follow-up? I want you to deliver something to my mother and sister, in person, with a photographer. What is it? You'll see. Can you meet me at my hotel in an hour? When Marlo arrived, I handed her a small package, wrapped in the same red velvet that had cushioned the keys. What's inside? The piano bench from my grandmother's piano, the one they sold. Someone saved it for me. How do you want me to present this? Tell them it's from the women who always believed in me. Don't explain further. Just give it to them and document their reaction. This is going to be brutal. Good. 2 days later, Marlo called me. I delivered the package. Your mother opened the door, saw the cameras, and tried to slam it shut. But your sister was right behind her, asking what was happening. Did they open it? On camera, your sister recognized it immediately, started crying. Your mother just stood there holding it, looking like she'd seen a ghost. What did they say? Your mother asked where you got it. I told her what you said, that it was from the women who always believed in you. Your sister asked if there was a message from you. And I said the message was in the music you've been writing for the past 3 years. That night, Sydney posted a video on Instagram. She was crying, holding the piano bench, talking about how sorry she was, how she never understood what the piano meant to me. I was young and stupid, she said to the camera. I thought it was just furniture. I didn't realize it was her heart. The video got 2 million views, but the comments weren't sympathetic. Too little, too late. This feels performative. You can't unbreak someone's heart with a crying selfie. She's only sorry because she got caught. I posted one thing on Instagram that week, a photo of the piano keys arranged in a heart shape with the caption, Some things money can't replace. It got 10 million likes. Kenny called me that night. Dude, you've officially won the internet. It doesn't feel like winning. What does it feel like? I looked at the keys sitting on my hotel room desk, catching the light from the window, like the end of something, and maybe the beginning of something else. The Lincoln Center invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Gold lettering, heavy paper, the kind of formal elegance that still made my hands shake a little. The New York Philharmonic requests the honor of your presence for the world premiere of Velvet Requiem by composer Zara Holland. Dean found me staring at it in my new apartment, the one with actual space for a real piano. You nervous? Terrified. Good. Terror means it matters. I'd spent the last month writing Velvet Requiem, the piece that would replace the unfinished fifth movement of Inheritance. It was different from anything I'd composed before. Not angry, not mournful, but something more complex. Something that acknowledged pain without being consumed by it. The press is going to be there, Dean said. Rolling Stone, Billboard, The Times. This is your moment to show them you're more than just a viral story. What if I'm not? Then you fake it until you are. The day of the premiere, Kenny flew in from LA. He found me in the green room, pacing in my concert dress. You look like you're about to throw up. I might. Remember when we recorded Ashes and Arpeggios in your crappy studio apartment? You were terrified then too. That was different. That was just us. This is just us too. Just us and a few thousand other people. I laughed despite my nerves. That's not helping. The music is perfect, Zara. You know it is. He was right. Velvet Requiem was the best thing I'd ever written. It started with the melody from Ashes and Arpeggios, but transformed it, evolved it into something that spoke of healing rather than just hurt. The conductor found me backstage. 5 minutes, Ms. Holland. I walked to the wings and watched the orchestra take their positions. The concert hall was packed, 2,000 seats, all filled. I spotted critics in the front rows, phones already recording. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice filled the hall. Please welcome composer Zara Holland for the world premiere of Velvet Requiem. The applause was thunderous. I walked to the piano they'd placed on stage, a beautiful Steinway grand that gleamed under the lights. As I sat down, the hall fell silent. I placed my hands on the keys and began. The opening was soft, almost whispered. The melody that had started as pain in my studio apartment now spoke of something deeper. Acceptance, maybe, or at least the possibility of it. The orchestra joined me, strings and woodwinds weaving around the piano line. The music built slowly, carefully, each section adding layers without overwhelming the core melody. Halfway through, I caught sight of someone in the audience that made my fingers almost stumble. Isaiah, the piano restorer, sitting in the third row, smiling. The music swelled to its climax. Not angry or desperate like my earlier work, but powerful in a different way. It was the sound of someone who had found their voice and decided to use it. The final movement was a conversation between the piano and orchestra, each taking turns with the melody, passing it back and forth like old friends sharing stories. It ended not with resolution, but with a question mark, a chord that hung in the air, unresolved, but somehow complete. The silence that followed lasted forever, and no time at all. Then the audience erupted. People were on their feet, applauding, some wiping their eyes. The orchestra stood and applauded too, which never happened. I stood and bowed, my heart hammering. As the applause continued, I saw Isaiah making his way toward the stage. Security tried to stop him, but I waved them off. He climbed the steps and handed me something wrapped in familiar red velvet. What is this? Open it. Inside was a single piano key, middle C from my grandmother's piano. But this one was different. It had been engraved with tiny words. For Zara, who never stopped playing. Rose. I found it when I was restoring the piano, Isaiah said quietly. Your grandmother had it specially made. It was hidden under the original key. I stared at the engraving, my vision blurring. Even from beyond the grave, Grandma Rose was still believing in me. The applause was still going. I held up the key, and somehow the audience understood. The applause grew even louder. Backstage, reporters crowded around me. How does it feel to have conquered your demons? One asked. I haven't conquered anything, I said, still holding the engraved key. I've just learned to make music with them. Any word from your family? No, and that's okay. What's next for you? I looked at the key in my palm, thinking about all the music still waiting to be written. I'm working on a piece called Silent Ivory. It's about finding your voice when no one's listening, and keeping it when everyone is. My phone buzzed with a text from Kenny. You just changed everything. Maybe I had, or maybe I'd just finally learned that some things, like talent, like truth, like the love of someone who believes in your dreams, can't be sold, can't be silenced, can't be taken away. Some might say revenge is a dish best served cold. For me, it's played in a minor key, with just enough dissonance to remind you that not all stories end in perfect harmony. And sometimes, that's exactly how they should end.